Good morning, everybody. Hopefully you had a wonderful weekend and you weren't hit with some of that terrible weather some people had. So as we get started here, the 5Q tape breakdown last week was there. Here's a snippet on the beneficiary script. The advisor does some things really well, but makes a mistake twice in less than a minute. It could cause him to lose the wife's support. So guys, this is a great, the 5Q tape breakdowns, remember, are things that can help you with your 15-minute drills. And is there any more important 15 minutes in your day than the 15-minute drill? Let's see if I, good. We got 2, 3, everybody's saying no. Awesome, good. Because that is what keeps your ability to get on their side and your ability to ask open-ended questions and your ability to make sure that you're concentrating on listening to them instead of you talking. Should you be working on your scripts during the 15-minute drill? David's got it right. Renan's got it right. You guys are so smart. Awesome. Yeah, the scripts are not to be worked on during the 15-minute drill. That takes a lot longer than 15 minutes a day. You should set aside like an hour a week to go back and concentrate on one of those scripts you've already learned to lock it down even better. The 15-minute drill is about getting better at those communication skills, not about the scripts. Good job, guys. So here we go. Just a couple of tidbits I found, and I thought these were great things to file in the back of your mind. So are annuities safe? Well, there's a lot of different answers to that. One is we want to look at, are they safe for you? And what do you think I mean, are they safe for you? What do you think I'm talking about there? Well, this is what I'm talking about, this particular situation is complaints. So let's talk about how many complaints there were with FIAs. In 2016, there were 302. How do you think that compares to the securities industry? Higher or lower? Yeah, really low. Guess what happened to the complaints? It went down even further. Guess what happened to the complaints last year? Even further. So there was 170 complaints in over 1 million sales. So how safe is it for you to sell FIAs if you don't want to get into trouble? Yeah, very safe. And none of us want any trouble, so why not? So so that's one complaint for every $735 million in sales. So if you sell $735 million a year, you can expect one complaint. Can you handle one complaint if you're selling $735 million a year? That's that's $750 million. That's crazy. Now, that means 99.96%, over 99.9% of consumers are satisfied with their FIA. Yeah, and you're right, David. With the 5Q system, it virtually eliminates any complaints whatsoever. Here's FINRA. So we talked about in 2016 there was 3,070. 2007 was 3,002 complaints, and in 2018 there was 3,136 complaints versus 170. So if you're trying to protect yourself from problems, are you hurting yourself at all by selling FIAs? Missy, some people are saying that my mic isn't working very well. Is that right or not? Are you hearing me okay?
I hear it okay. It's just sometimes it wavers in just a little bit. Can just maybe put the boom closer to your mouth just a little bit.
Okay, how's that?
That's much better. Much better. Yep.
Okay. So again, if we're worried about complaints, we shouldn't be worried about FIA present or doing FIAs because it's going to be much better received by clients. Now, let's talk about the safety when it comes to how safe are annuities when it comes to losing money. So how many banks have failed since 2000? Anybody have a guess? Anybody have a guess? 200? 300? Those are good guesses. So 553. 553 banks have failed since 2000. How many insurance companies have failed since 2000? 7. 7 have failed. Okay. So with the banks, obviously all the assets that were below the FDIC limits, they were protected. What do you think happened to the assets that were below the state guarantee? No loss. 100% of them were protected. Now, Do you think everybody was within the FDIC limits in banks? Or do you think some people had more than that? Yeah. So for assets above the limits, let's talk about banks. Only 1 in 10 banks, only 10% of banks did the people get 100% back. Only 10% did they get 100% back. The other 90% only got an average of 77 back. What do you think happened with the insurance companies? Not quite 100. 6 out of the 7 got 100% back, even though they're above the limits, and 1 got 90% back. So if we want to talk about what's safer, banks or annuity companies, which one is safer? So I had a couple of you guys say, how safe are annuities? And it depends. Did you guys change your mind after you see these statistics? Because where are you going to get anything safer than this? About the only thing that would be safer than an annuity would be what? A short-term government bond. Why short-term? Yeah, David says, when he was talking about annuities, he was talking about VAs. Yeah, that's a whole separate subject. What are we finding out about the actuarial ability of these VAs to continue on with their guaranteed benefits? What are these insurance companies right now figuring out? Holy crap, Oli, we're what? In big trouble. So David, I would totally agree with that. Now, when it comes to fixed annuities, though, where are we? These are a lot safer. Do any of you guys, give me some feedback, do any of you guys even run, I mean, I used to run into this a lot in the late 90s, are annuities safe? You guys running into this very often with, are annuities safe? Yes or no? Yeah, no's. Nobody's running into, well, there's a couple of you are saying yes, but not as much. So does this give you some added clarity between the complaints safe for you and safe for the client? So is FIAs a good place to be? Oh, I also had a couple people in the last month, well, actually more than a couple, in the last month asked me, Mike, you say it should be 50-50 with the FIAs, but my clients keep telling me they want to be more in what? What do you think? Fixed. That's right, more in the fixed. So is it okay to be more in fixed? Yeah, when I say 50-50, I'm saying you should never be less than 50-50. Most clients want to be closer to 70-30. And the David says that most people want to be 70-30 in guaranteed versus the market. So yeah, don't worry about that. If they want to be more guaranteed, then no problem. Back in 97, 98, 99, what was the stock market doing? Going up or down? Up. By how much? A little or a lot? 3 years in a row, it went up 20% plus. 3 years in a row, 20% plus, 20%, 25%, it was going up. And so how hard do you think it was to get people into FIAs when the market's going up like that? Guess what all of my clients put 100% of their money in 97, 98, 99? FIAs, right, Jerry? FIAs. 100% went to FIAs. Because and we can't do this anymore, but I had a presentation that showed an FIA killed a balanced portfolio. A FIA killed a stock and bond portfolio. We find in the last 19 years that it actually killed equities as a whole. But even back in the 90s when the market was going up like a rocket, it still beat a balanced portfolio. Should any of our clients be 100% in stocks, or should they have some sort of balance in the portfolio? Yeah, it should have some sort of, and FIAs basically are the perfect balanced portfolio because it has absolute safety for 100% of their money, and it has growth. Because with a balanced portfolio, does it have unbridled growth? A balanced portfolio? No. That's right, because part of the money's in bonds, which you're not going to get growth, and parts in stock. So the stock portion is unbridled growth, but does the bond portion have unbridled growth? No. Funny thing is, with an FIA, guess what? 100% has unbridled growth, and 100% has safety. And again, we can't do it anymore, but FIAs are a great place for your clients to be. And don't worry about if they want to be more in there than in the market. Hey, Jeff, have you heard anybody, has we had anybody in the last decade when we listen to tapes, wanted more than 50% of their money in equities when the guys do their scripts?
No.
Just doesn't happen. Does never happens. Not once. Not once. This dude, who's this dude right here? Who's the dude on the smartest guy ever? I agree, Michael. Yeah, Ben Franklin. This dude can double your production. This is what his schedule looked like. And the first thing he did in the morning was he questioned, "What good shall I do this day?" So he'd rise at 5 in the morning, wash, address powerful goodness. That was his little mantra that he had. Contrive day's business and take resolution of the day. Prosecute the present study and have breakfast. All between 5 and 7. So the first 2 hours a day, he got ready for the day, and he'd ask himself, "What good shall I do this day?" Then he would work from 8, 9, 10, 11. Then he would, at 12 to 1, he would read, he would overlook his business accounts, and he would dine. So for 2 hours, he kind of took a break of working, and he kind of took account of what was going on, and he educated himself a little bit. Then from 2 to 5, he worked. Then from 6, 7, 8, 9, he put things in their place. He had supper. He listened to music or a diversion. He had conversation. And then before he went to bed, he examined the day. He ended the day with the question, "What good have I done today?" And then he slept 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 hours. So this is what he did every day. Do you think he did this every day? No. This is what he wanted to achieve. So, but if it all feels like there's too many regimented blocks of time and too much pressure, don't fret. Franklin himself was bad at sticking to a schedule. As written in his autobiography, I entered upon the execution of this plan for self-examination. What does he mean by that? I entered this plan for self-examination. So he had this down there so he could what? Critique himself to see how much of his day was effective, how much of his day was he doing. So he had to have some level of planning to see how am I doing. I continued with it on occasional intermissions for some time. I was surprised to find myself so much fuller of faults than I had imagined, but I had the satisfaction of seeing them diminish. So the more he did this, guess what? That's right, self-accountable, Stephen. That's what I always said. It was a way to hold himself accountable. But what he said, I made a lot of mistakes, but the more he did it, guess what? The better he got at it. My scheme of order gave me the most trouble. I found that though I'd be practicable where a man's business is such to leave him the disposition of his time, that of a journey of a printer, for instance, it was not possible to be exactly observed by a master who must mix with the world. So what he's saying is, when he was the blocks of work, sometimes he had to work into lunch because people needed things right then, right there. Yeah, David, that's right. If you get 1% better every day at what you're doing, that's what you're looking for. So what are the 10 things we can learn from Ben Franklin's daily schedule? Number 1, is this a complicated schedule or a simple schedule? Simple. The more complicated you make it, the more difficult it is going to be to follow. Get up and go to bed at the same time each day. How about on the weekends? I know we don't all do this, but we should strive to do it. What is all the doctors, all the medical, all the psychological studies found about going to bed at the same time and getting up at the same time? It's far better for your mind and your body. Spend quiet time alone. So what did he do at lunch? He read, he overlooked his accounts, and he dined. Down here, he listened to music, he had some diversion. So you do need to spend time alone. And spend quiet time alone. What do I mean by that? Why did I emphasize the red, quiet, and underline that? Quiet time alone. What do I think? Those guys that know me and have heard me talk, what do I think is the scourge of society's intelligence, the scourge of our ability to do work, the scourge of us to be able to concentrate, to learn things? What is the scourge of that? Smartphones. That's right. Distractions on smartphones. Look when people are online. Look when people are at dinner by themselves. Look when anybody's by themselves. What are they doing? We've forgotten how to sit quietly and think. Even myself, when I go for a walk, guess what I have? I've got something in my ears. When Thomas Jefferson, can we agree that he's a pretty smart guy and he put together the Declaration of Independence and a large portion of the Constitution? Guess what he did every day? He took 2-hour walks And he said he took 2-hour walks through through the woods every day. Why did he take 2-hour walks through the woods every day? He did them for two reasons. One is for physical exercise, but the most important thing was to think. How many of us have spent 2 hours just sitting quietly or walking quietly without any earbuds in our ears and just thought for 2 hours? Guys, most of the stuff that I come up with, guess what I do? I sit in the chair and I shut my eyes and I just let my mind go free and I think. So these things that I come up with, anybody can come up with them if they just sat quietly and let themselves think. So start to learn to spend quiet time alone every day. Start your day intentionally. That's why he said, what good am I going to do today? Learn every day. He read every day. Create time blocks for both deep and shallow work. So some stuff that you can really dive into, and some stuff that you can just kind of are easy, no brain type work. Have an organized office. What did he say that he did before he left the office every day, or left his work place of work every day? Put things in their place. Have an orderly office. Schedule time to relax. End your day with gratitude and reflection. Before I went to bed, what good have I done today? He does not say, but there's been a lot of scientific proof. I know it sounds new agey, but there's been a lot of scientific proof that if you end each day with one thing that you're grateful for, that's also an awesome way to end your day. And then understand it's the pursuit of perfection, but ain't nobody perfect. So he understood that this is what he wanted to do. This is what he was shooting for, but he wasn't able to do it. But over time, what happened? He got better and better and better. So take these things to heart. Put create a life that is more effective, a life that is more purposeful. And do you think this just helped him with his business, or did this help him with his health and help him with his relationships and help him with everything else by having an orderly life like this? It helped him with everything. So take this to heart, okay? So today we're going to talk about the Quality of Life Directive. We're going to listen to a tape of a guy doing it. The Quality of Life Directive is one of those non-financial things. So, guys, how long has it been since you've looked at the Moral of the Story coaching call? How long has it been since you've watched the End Goal coaching call or the Moral of the Story coaching call? If it's been longer than a month, go back and watch this. This is an important. If you want to be good at the 21-point checklist, this is an extremely important coaching call to watch on a regular basis. And then the outline, I would highly recommend you have that outline of the end goals. So do you understand the moral of the story of the end goals coaching call? What I'm talking about is with each one of those scripts, each one of those 21 scripts, what do I want the client to say before I move on? And are any of at the end of any of those scripts, do I want them to say yes? Do I want to say, does that make sense? And they say yes. Is that worth anything? So that it's a complete thought. And if they don't give me that complete thought, I should do what? Not move on. I got to circle back and get them to say it. Redo it exactly. Go back again. So you got to know what the outline is. And if you have the outline in front of you, if it's laminated or it's in a plastic protective sheet and you have it, or you have it up on your computer facing you when you're talking to the client, you'll realize I can't move forward till they say this, and they have not said this, so I can't move forward. Does that make sense? So if it's been a while since you've watched that, go back and watch that again. Today we're going to talk about the medical power of attorney, Quality of Life Directive, and the electronically filing. So with the power of attorney, medical power of attorney, so at the end of the power of attorney, I want to say any advisor doesn't look at it. My POA is a bad advisor. At the end of the medical power of attorney, I want to say that it's missing the most important half of the medical power of attorney. I want them to say that. Then with electronic filing, I want them to say, I need to file these documents electronically, or I need that thing that will help me to file my documents electronically so I don't end up being forced to use the hospitals, because that's going to be in their favor. And then with the Quality of Life Directive, I want them to say, if not having this could tear my family apart. So I want them to say those three things, but then after I've done those three things, what do I want them to say again? Any advisor that doesn't ensure that I have a medical power of attorney, that it's filed electronically, that I have a quality of life directive is a bad advisor. And why do I want them to say that? Or first of all, how many times do I want them to say that? Once? How many times? At least 3. Power of attorney, at least 3. Identity theft, at least 3. Property casualty, at least 3. So we got 3, 6, 9, 12. Because if they say I'd be a bad advisor for not covering these things 12 times, those are more dots in the page. The more dots in the page, the more likely they are to connect the dots that, oh my gosh, it's not Mike I'm talking about. I'm talking about my own advisor. Because do we mention any of their advisor in any of these scripts? No. But we're hoping they connect the dots so they say, yeah, you'd be a bad advisor, Mike. You'd be a bad advisor. You'd be a bad, wait a minute, you're not my advisor. My advisor should be doing these things. My advisor is a bad advisor. My advisor is a bad advisor. See, I want them to come to that conclusion over time so that by the time I roll into the real scripts, the scripts that are the financial scripts, guess how hard it is going to be for them to jump to the conclusion that the guy is purposely omitting things to disrespect them, to hide things so they can make more money on them. How hard is it if we do this up front? It's a lot easier. Now, when we're doing this, do I brag and say, yeah, I mean, I look forward, I do a power of attorney. I know a lot of guys don't pay attention to this, but I think it's really important. Quality of Life Directive, I do this really, do we brag? Are any of these things used to show how great an advisor we are, or do we cover them in the form of a apology for boring them with this stuff? We got to apologize for. We have to. Geez, I'm sorry for covering these things. Again, we just spent time on the power of attorney. That boring stuff. We just spent time on all this medical stuff, the medical power of attorney, filing them electronically, the quality of life directive. I know this is boring, and I apologize. I know it's not fun to talk about this stuff. It's more fun to talk about the investments, how much money we can make. So I apologize. Yet again, I'm covering this non-financial stuff, this stuff that's boring, the stuff that's putsy, the stuff with the fine print. So I apologize. I mean, do I get paid? Am I a doctor? Do I get paid for doing any of this? Well, no, I don't think so. No, I don't. So can I kind of walk you through why I think this is important? Why I hate to say waste time, but certainly it's not the fun stuff. Why I take time to do this stuff, even though it's boring and putsy. What's the number one expense that can clobber or completely wipe out 30 years of retirement savings? What's the only expense that can really do that? Yeah, healthcare. And all of these documents, medical power of attorney, quality of life directive, if we don't have it and we're forced to use the hospitals, who writes we just talked about, who writes the hospital's documents? Their attorneys. And are they writing it in our favor, do you think, or are they writing it in the favor of the hospital? Well, the hospital. Yeah, so if the number one expense that can wipe out our retirement is medical, and we're not paying attention to these documents, guess how much money we could spend that we don't want to spend? Because the hospital wants you to spend more money or less money? Well, more money. So we should be taking care of the way the hospital wants to take care of us, or the way we want to be taken care of, or the way we want to be taken care of. So if I ignored these things and I pretended like it's not really my problem, what kind of advisor would I be? Would you be a bad one? What if I said it's not my deal, it's the hospital? I mean, I'm a financial guy. Go do it with the hospital. If I just completely ignored it and sloughed off this important information, what kind of advisor would it be? You'd be a horrible advisor. Yeah, it'd be horrible. So why do I cover these medical things? Well, because it could wipe out a retirement. If you didn't cover that, I mean, see how I'm making them come to me with that? So I do have these mini ones. Missing the most important half. Need to get these filed electronically so I can use my own instead of the hospitals, because there's favors that I not having quality of life could tear my family apart. But then I have to combine all these three into what kind of advisor would I be if I didn't cover these medical things. So it's not, these seem like small things, but do you see how it's really prepping the client for our ability to go into the more, it's setting the stage, exactly. Next, that's what it's setting the stage. Make sense? Okay, so this is the Quality of Life Directive. Let's listen to how this advisor does on the Quality of Life Directive. So here we go. I can get to it here. I'm going to play it all the way through. It's about 4 minutes, so we're going to play it all the way through. Follow on the crib notes here if he does what he needs to do. So here we go.
The next thing I'd like to talk about is I think it would be good to consider pursuing what's called a Quality of Life Directive, and I can show you what one looks like.
Okay.
Quality of Life Directive, it has some overlap with what's called the Advanced Healthcare Directive.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this actually gets missed a lot of times because here you've got this big, giant, and I looked through yours, and you don't have one, you have this big old legal thing.
Yeah, it looks like it should cover everything.
Yeah, and who did you pay for this? What profession is this guy in?
A lawyer.
He's a lawyer.
Yeah.
And you think lawyers are good at keeping up with law changes?
Should be, but I haven't seen him for, it's like, it was my fault. I'm not keeping it up.
It happens, right? It happens. They don't keep in touch. We don't keep in touch. This one gets missed frequently because it doesn't come out of the legal field. This comes out of the medical field.
Okay.
This was created by the Mayo Clinic. Have you ever heard of them?
Yeah.
So Mayo Clinic is big and they do really good work. And so what's happening at the Mayo Clinic before they created this is they're noticing, kind of like I mentioned, if you're way over here and you have a simple problem, and you've probably been through this just having any type of health issue, you need your dental work done or something like that. If you're coherent and they give you several options, who can easily make those? Right? If you're okay and they say you want to do A or B,
You do.
that's easy,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I make my own decisions. If you're way over here, this is sort of white, let's say. If you're over here on the black side and you're like, so they take you off the machine, you're dead, right? Now, who can make those decisions? Well, a family member may have talked to you and known Charlie didn't want to be kept alive on a machine. So that's very black and very white. Do you think most medical decisions are so black and white, or do you think there's more gray?
There's a progression.
Yeah, there's a lot of gray.
There's a
And
lot
that's
of gray.
what they were seeing.
Yeah.
So they were seeing, definitely in situations where the person couldn't make their own, kind of like the medical power of attorney I was just talking about. So when somebody was functioning on a medical power of attorney, and there's a decision to make, if any of the decisions had negative ramifications, not only was it hard for the person to make, so like, oh, I don't know, but then if something bad happened, what do you think they felt like?
It was their fault.
Yeah, what Mayo Clinic was seeing was this is not a happy process for families. And even if you do the best thing, like pick one of two good choices or pick the better of the two choices, if something goes wrong. Does anything ever go wrong medically? For procedures and do doctors make mistakes?
Oh, yeah, I'm not even sure I trust the doctor anymore.
Amen. That's right. So they were seeing lots of discomfort in families. So basically, the Mayo Clinic created something we can add. Now, this can go right into that same service so that they get your Quality of Life Directive, your list of who to call, and your medical power of attorney just by calling this little number on a card in your pocket and having it fax them. So this covers things like the different procedures you're okay with, how much pain medication you want. Do you want to be like a zombie and not hurt, or do you want to be able to see people there and feel a little bit of pain, and a whole bunch of different things. So this is a piece that I'm probably going to have you add.
Okay. And that is different from what was the other one? Wait, no, you said it was overlapped with what?
Yeah, sort of like an advanced healthcare directive.
Okay.
There's some similar questions. There's several places things show up, like how do you feel about staying alive on a machine? How do you feel about there's different places it shows up.
So if you had that one, do you still need an advanced healthcare directive?
We'd have to ask the attorney. So it depends on what he's got on his advanced healthcare directive.
Okay.
So we want this at least at the minimum, because this is a family document. This is not a legal thing that you have to get notarized. This is something that we need for your family, so they can go, well, this is what she wanted. I don't have any guilt. Your sister really can just say, right, I know what Nan wanted, and okay, it says right here, okay, this is what to do, Doc, right? And it's peaceful. So that's something that I recommend for everybody, and we make sure to sort of add to. Okay, so that's Quality of Life Directive.
So what did he accomplish with this script? Very good. Lonnie's saying nothing. David's saying nothing. Did she really agree that it was important, guys? She said, did she ever say that this was important? Did that ever come out of her mouth? Yeah, I would say that somebody said he's halfway there. That's all he is halfway there. So did she come to the conclusion that this is a good idea? I would absolutely think that she came to this with a good idea. We've talked about this before. Do the people that we want to work with, do they have money? Yes. So are they going on vacation when they want? Yes. Are they going out to eat what they want? Yes. Are they buying the cars they want? Yes. So how much of their pinky finger will they lift for a good idea? How much of their pinky finger will they lift for a good idea? None. So it can't be about a good idea. So the purpose of this script is to have them understand, oh my gosh, if I don't have this done, guess what? My family could be torn apart. My family could be torn apart. So Jeff, can you get on? Let's role play. I'm going to role play this with you. I'm going to take some shortcuts because just want to get done, but I want you to see what we need to accomplish here. And more importantly, as Jeff's getting on there, more importantly, did he ever then get her to say that any advisor isn't covering these things as a bad advisor? No. So he didn't get her to say this, that she needed this thing to prevent her family from being torn apart. She didn't, and he didn't get her to say that that not covering these medical documents would make him a bad advisor. So we wasted the whole script, right? So he had, what he's doing is the old mentality of, look at me, aren't I doing a good thing? Aren't I a good advisor? Don't I come up with good ideas? And they love you for that. They love you for that, but what don't they do? They think you're an awesome guy, but what don't they do? They don't move. They don't move. So the whole purpose of the 100-point checklist is, remember, what's our number one competitor? What's the one thing that we have to overcome? And it's not the advisor. Status quo, complacency. It's easier to do nothing. So how we get them to avoid doing nothing is, you're right, Till, when you say it's the rep. What we do to get them to take action is we have them understand the rep is taking advantage of them. And this, again, they're not going to maybe jump to that conclusion here, but we're prepping it to make it a lot easier later in the meeting for them to come to that conclusion. But the biggest thing we are up against is the status quo. They don't want to make a move. So we use the fact that when their pants are on fire, or the fact that their advisor is taking advantage of them, that's when they're going to move, because that nobody is going to stay with the guy they think is taking advantage of them. Make sense? So Jeff, you're on?
Yep, I'm here.
Super. So we just finished the financial power of attorney, but there's also one called a medical power of attorney. And guess what that has to do with?
Medical.
You got it, medical. So the legal one talks about what we're going to do with money, as we talked about. And the medical one's going to allow somebody to help us with our what decisions?
Oh, health decisions.
Health decisions. Now, some are going to be easier than others. If I saw that somebody had a broken leg and I had to make a decision for them, would I say, let's just leave it and see how mangled it'll grow back in the next 2 weeks, or I'm going to say, go ahead and fix that?
No, just go ahead and fix it.
How hard is that medical decision for me to make for somebody?
Oh, that's easy. That's black and white.
That's easy. And then there's some that are not necessarily easy, but are still black and white. So like in your medical power of attorney, as he says here, do not resuscitate. So it may be hard to go ahead and tell the doctor emotionally to don't resuscitate. But is it a hard decision of whether you should or shouldn't do that? So emotionally it's hard, but it's a hard decision to decide whether I should or should not do it if your parent or your loved one said, don't resuscitate.
No, that's pretty straightforward. That's easy.
So is that confusing, or is that pretty much cut and dried?
No, that's cut and dried.
But are all medical decisions cut and dried, or are some of them gray, some in the middle, some of them have advantages and disadvantages?
Well, I'm sure most of them are advantages and disadvantages.
Yeah, most of them are that. And are those easier or harder to do?
Those are harder.
Yes. And if we have to, making hard decisions on ourselves, if I had to make a decision on myself, that's easy or hard one?
It's easier.
It's gray. If there's advantages and disadvantages, is that easy
It's
to hey, fix my leg, fix my broken leg, or if the doctor says, if we do this surgery, you could die on the table, but let's say that I have some debilitation where I know I'm going to be in a wheelchair and maybe be in pain for the rest of my life. And the doctor says, if we do this surgery, you got a 50% chance of dying on the table. You got a 50% chance of being totally cured. Or you can just continue doing what you're doing right now, which is be in a wheelchair and be in pain all your life. Now, is that a black and white, or is there advantages and disadvantages to both of those?
No, there's advantages and disadvantages to both.
Well, I just flippantly say, yeah, let's go to the table and 50-50 chance I may die. Would I do that, or would I have to think about things? Would that be an easier or hard decision?
That'd be a hard decision.
Now, if we had to make the decision on somebody else's life, that is easier or even harder?
No, then it's even harder.
Because if we make a decision for them because they can't make a decision, and we go ahead and say, do the surgery because I don't think they want to be in a wheelchair or be in pain all their lives, and they die on the table, what would that do to me mentally if I made that decision?
No, you'd feel guilty.
I feel guilty. Exactly. So those are hard. So, and if you think so, and when we come to decisions, they can be very hard. Let's kind of look at that, because sometimes on the surface things look easy, and then they're not. For example, let's look at pain control. My wife and I, if you told or asked me or my wife, hey, do you want to be in pain the rest of your life? Guess what we both say?
No.
No, we both say no. But then if you see here, being pain controlled, even if my ability to think is clearly reduced, I would say, you know what? I'm a baby. I don't want to be in pain. If you have to shoot me up and make me high as a kite, go ahead and do it, because I do not want to be in pain. Now, my wife is she wants to be in control of the situation. And so she would say, no, if it's going to impair my ability to think clearly, I'll remain in pain. So on the surface, we both sounded what?
You both sounded the same.
But when we dive into it at just one level, what do we find out? The same or total opposites?
You guys are opposite.
Yeah. And then we go all the way down this. Guess what all of these different things are? Things that on the surface, hey, you said, hey, Mike and Michelle, is it important to use life-prolonging treatment? What will we both say?
Yeah.
Yeah, but then when we start asking these other questions, what if I only have a 50-50 chance of recovering both physically and mentally? What if I have some physical limitations but can't socially relate to others that I care about? Do you see how these things are making the decision easier or more complicated?
Well, more complicated.
Yeah, so would I want to make those decisions for another human being, or would I want them to be very clear on what their decision was so I wouldn't have to make that decision?
You'd want them to be clear.
Yeah. And do you think everybody views these things the exact same?
No, I'm sure different people have different ideas on them.
Yeah. So what if, for example, I was appointed to help my mom with this, and do you think necessarily what I think is the same as what my brother and sister think?
No, not necessarily.
So if I didn't have this document and I just had to make the decision out of the blue, and let's say my mom died on the table, and because I thought she would want to go ahead and take the risk of having surgery done so she would be mentally able to function better and physically able to function better, and she died on the table, and I made a judgment call without this document, do you think maybe what could be going through my first of all, you said I would feel guilty or not guilty?
You would feel guilty.
And how about my brother and sister? What could they be thinking? What if they didn't agree with me and I went ahead and did that? What could that cause?
Well, they could be angry. That could cause problems.
And those problems like that, do they just go away, or could they last for a very, very long time? In fact, for life.
They could last for life.
They could say, you know what, you just did this because you didn't want to take care of mom. You wanted to take the easier. Could they say things like that?
Yeah, they could say that.
And might I even be thinking that?
Yeah, you could be thinking it.
So I say a medical power of attorney without this document is actually a medical power of attorney where you don't lay out exactly what you want and how to be taken care of. I wouldn't do that to my worst enemy. Why do I say that? Because if you don't have directions, what can happen?
You could make decisions that you're not sure about that could cause problems.
Yeah, and what could happen to the family then?
They could really just be torn apart, basically.
Yeah. So why is this document so important?
Well, you want to make sure that whoever is making the decisions knows what they want you to do, that you know what they want them to do or what their ideas are.
Yeah, and to protect who, you or who?
No, to protect them.
Yep. I mean, it does protect you, don't get me wrong, but you're out of it. You're not making your own decisions at this point, so who is it really protecting?
It's protecting the people that have the decision, basically, and the family.
Yeah. And how important is that? Really important or not important?
No, that's very important.
Yeah. So what you're going to do is you're going to go ahead and fill this out at your leisure. Think about it. Think about these things. How does your religion and spiritual beliefs come into it? What do you think about alternative medical treatments? I mean, all of these things. Don't just rush through it. Think about it, and then you're going to sign it, and you'll notarize it. And we can actually do that for you here in the office. So once we do that, then we can have that with your power of attorney and those type of things, so that if somebody needs to use it, they can use that. So we now spent, we talked about power of attorney, and we talked about why that was important. Now we talked about the medical power of attorney, and finally electronically, and the quality of life directive. And I apologize. I can see this. Is this stuff really, hey, this is fun stuff to talk about? Is this fun stuff to talk about, or kind of a little bit more difficult to talk about?
It's a little grim.
A little grim. And is it fun? Like, hey, here's the kind of rates of return you can make on your money, or is it more putsy? Have to think about it hard, and there's not really a lot of fun stuff going on here.
No, these are things you have to really think about, not just kind of difficult things.
Yeah, and I apologize for covering these things. I know you came here to say, hey, what can you do with our money? How can we get a higher income? How can we get a greater return? And we're going to talk about all those things. But if I didn't talk about these things, let's think about this. What's the number one expense that can wipe out 30 years of savings in retirement?
Healthcare, hospital bills.
Hospital bills. And we said that if you don't have these things done, like the medical power of attorney and file electronically, you'll end up using the hospitals. And why is that a bad thing?
Well, because theirs is just designed to limit their liability, to protect them.
Yeah, and to save you money or to make them money?
Make them money.
So these documents are going to make sure you're taken care of the way you want to be taken care of instead of the hospital. That means you're going to pay what you want to pay, not what the hospital wants you to pay. And who do you think is going to want to pay more, the hospital or yourself?
The hospital.
Yeah. So if I didn't cover these things, what kind of an advisor would I be?
You wouldn't be very good at all.
What if I said, hey, it's not my fault. I'm here to help you with investments. I mean, what you do with the hospital, what you do with the healthcare, that's your deal. What if I just sloughed off the responsibility to help you with this? What kind of advisor would I be?
You'd be a bad advisor.
So what do you expect financial advisors to do? Just give you investment advice, or make sure also that the number one expense that could wipe out your entire savings is also being addressed? Just the investments, or also things that could completely wipe you out are addressed?
No, you want to have them talk about anything that could wipe you out as well.
Yeah. So why do I cover these things as a good advisor?
You just want to make sure that when people, come to you, that they're not going to be blindsided by these kind of medical things.
Yeah. So again, I apologize for spending so much time talking about these things, and I know it's more fun to talk about the investments. We'll get to it, but should I continue to make sure we've got all our I's out and T's crossed, or just kind of ignore these things and just talk about investments, even though if we don't have these things done, it can wipe out our investments?
No, we need to talk about these too.
So that's how I would do it. I said, so did I go through all of these crib notes? Did I get what I needed from Jeff? Yeah. So does it really matter? And you know what? What if I skipped all these crib notes, but Jeff still said I'd be an advisor for not doing these things? Hallelujah. Go ahead. It doesn't matter. As long as he says what he needs to say at the end of these things, that's good. The problem is if you don't do these things, it's going to be just harder for him to say those things. Does that make sense? So I need him to say these 3 things in order to get him to this point. And then we're going to do the same thing with identity theft. We're going to do the same thing with property casualty. So by the time we get through the non-financials, they've said 10, 12 times that I'd be a bad advisor for not covering these things. Just makes it so much easier that once you get to the financial things, you're able to get them to say what you need them to say. Make sense? So evaluate, am I using the Quality of Life Directive as effectively as I could be using it? I approached every one of these scripts, guys. I approached every single script as if this, for example, power of attorney, I approached that as if that was the only conversation I could have with them to get them to move their assets to me. When I talked about the medical power of attorney, I treated that as the only conversation I could have to get them to move their assets to me. So I didn't skim through any of these. I treated each one of these scripts as if that was the only lever I had. So don't skim through any of these things. Oh, the real lever is on the fees. No, I treated the power of attorney as if I couldn't do any of the other 20 scripts. I could only do the power of attorney script. I treated the medical power of attorney script as if it was the only script I could use. I couldn't use the other 20 scripts. I treated each one of these as that, because then I squeezed every bit I could out of the script to get them to use it as a wedge between them and their current advisor. Make sense? Good. And does it help to deep dive into one of these scripts every once in a while to understand how we go? Awesome. Good. Well, then you guys have a wonderful rest of the weekend. We'll talk to you all next Monday. Thanks, everybody.